Okay, so how many questions you attempted today? 3. Anyone who has done 4 questions? All 4 questions? कहाँ पे रहते हो भाई? हैं? क्या हो गया? तबीयत खराब हो रखी है। तो रिप्लाई तो कर दिया करो। देखो मास्टर जी आगे से मैसेज कर रहे हैं उनको कि भैया हैं? Did I ask you? हाँ पर पूछा नहीं ना मैंने आपसे। So ओए वैसा रिप्लाई नहीं कर रहे हैं। देखो गोस्ट कर दिया मुझे एकदम कतई। पूछ रहा हूँ भाई केतन कहाँ हो, लौट आओ। He not responding at all. Okay, nice. Okay, so 4 questions anyone? Nice, nice. किस तबीयत है आपकी? Better. Okay. Okay, so today's 2 of the questions are on disaster management. Okay, then what are the things that we should keep in mind? And another question is on law and order, basically technology versus privacy theme. This question was asked by UPSC in section A, but this can be very well be asked in case study also, because that is an evergreen theme, you know, the technology versus this. Another question is on environment. We will do, I think, another question on environmental regulations in subsequent test. Today also we have discussed one theoretical question that is PYQ only that UPSC has asked. Okay, कल कहाँ थे आप? रूम पे ही थे? अच्छा, रूम पे ही क्यों थे? Today she is not here. क्या नाम था उनका? श्रेया. क्या हो गया? 2-3 सीनियर आ गए थे तो मना कर दिया उन्होंने क्लास जाने से. Okay. Did you attempt the test? डिस्कशन सुन लिया? आज लिखा है, डिस्कशन कल सुनोगे. Okay. Okay, so I think let us discuss. Before we discuss, okay, I think there is one problem that many of you are facing. Okay, and that problem is that whenever we are discussing the answer to any case study, all of you are having a sense of disappointment in a way that your answer is still not there. Okay, even though howsoever good you are writing, even though there is a sense of disappointment that, you know, our answer is still not there. In every class it is happening. So it may be the case that all of you might be feeling that we are not improving at all. We are doing the same thing again and again, and perhaps, you know, whether we are improving or not, something like that. So it may give a very negative mindset to you. Dear students, I mean, if you look at it in a bit more depth, you will understand that it is your desire to get validation at current stage that is what is causing you this sort of disappointment. If you just look at this process in terms of improvement, that every day you are learning, every day you are improving, then perhaps you will not have that much of disappointment, okay? Because you need to see it in terms of process of learning only, rather than seeing a sort of validation that, you know, perhaps after 8th test, I should be writing the best answer that there is. Perhaps after 3rd test, I should be writing the best answer that is there. It will always be work in progress. So when you have this attitude, so when you are exasperated by the kind of discussion we are having, then the attitude should be that this, you know, because in every question, today also, I mean, I've given you some theoretical question of policy making, something like that. So in every question, I will be telling you something that this is what you need to improve, this is what you need to think. And I think for that only you have joined the course. I mean, if there was not anything that you want to improve, or if there is not anything that you can improve, then what is the need of joining the course? You can just practice it on your own only. Okay, so that is what you need to understand, that with every session, you know, every session is oriented towards making you learn something. And we are over focusing on that part. For example, some of the questions are focusing on merit, I mean, the course of action, ethical issues, in some question justification, because I want to teach you that specific part. So when I am dealing with that, does not mean all other parts are not necessary in terms of answer to that question. And also, it does not mean that what you are writing is a bad answer, because even though I want to teach you a specific part of that answer, be it course of action, be it policy. For example, today we are discussing about policy. Okay, so all other part that you have written, it might be good also. Okay, so your attitude should be to learn, I mean, you should think that now we are getting more closure, and you are improving only. Okay, so you should have this self-belief ultimately, and attitude should be of learning rather than looking at this course or this test through milestone. that, now that we have done 8 tests, perhaps you should write the best answer that is there. It is always a work in progress, and that journey is different for different individuals. Some of you might have improved like anything, some of you might be struggling, but if you continue doing that, you will eventually reach there. But for that, you need to revise things, you need to understand the perspective from I am teaching, this perspective what I want you to learn when you are writing the answers. That is what you need to learn. Okay, I think I was showing the chat of Khushali Solanki also. Okay, so everyone is having problem, everyone is having issues, but that is always a work in progress. Mains is still almost an year ago, not a year actually. Kitna din hai? 7-8 months, huh? It is in 9 months. So it is in 9 months. Okay, so lot of time you still have, and I am very, very sure that by the time you write a full length test, 2 full length tests, you would have seen tremendous amount of improvement. So don't be exasperated by the kind of discussion we are having. Don't be demotivated by that. Always have this attitude that yes, now we are learning more. You should be happy that now you are getting more and more things to learn, because for that only you have paid for this course. Understood? Because I got one mail, and that mail, when I was going through that mail, she was genuinely asking that, sir, I'm facing this problem, because every time I see the model answer, I feel like that I have not improved. That will always be the case. That will always, I think the same thing was said by Megha also. The same thing she said, same thing was said by Khushali, same thing Aditya. So that will always be the case. So don't be disheartened by that, don't be demotivated by that. Always focus on learning, always focus on improving your answer. And if you are focusing on that, if you are competing with yourself, this attitude will take you places. Definitely, okay? Just believe in the process, and I'm very sure that it will improve after some point of time. Okay? समझ में आ रहा है डॉक्टर साहब? Okay. Anything? Online वाला आपको समझ में आया ये बात? Are you facing a similar issue? Are you facing a similar issue? Now look at it from the perspective of learning. For example, ethical issue. Now that you have learned that you discuss ethical issue from stakeholder perspective. Now this is how you need to evaluate your answer, that whether I am inculcating stakeholder why ethical issue or not. Understood? So now that should be your part of your judgment when you are writing the answer. So that is how you need to just evaluate yourself whether you are improving or not. Okay, so I think now we should start. So first case study that I think we should address is Commissioner of Police. So you are Commissioner of Police, and I think a leading technology firm has proposed something, FRT. They want to implement facial recognition technology, and in that will be identifying the criminals, tracking suspects. Shreya, we are missing you. Where were you? Outside. Where? Okay. सांस ले लो आप, सांस ले लो. डॉक्टर साहब हैं. If anything bad happens, he will take care. Okay. So let us see. So what are the ethical issues that are there? Ethical implications? What did you think? Ethical implications? Privacy is there. Then how many of you wrote autonomy judgment in bracket? Right to life. Very good. आपने नहीं लिखा? आपने एक स्टडी नहीं लिखी, ये और भी अच्छा है. ठीक है. एनीवन एल्स जिसने प्राइवेसी लिखा और ऑटोनॉमस जजमेंट नहीं लिखा ब्रैकेट में? किसने किया ऐसा पाप? बोलो. सबने लिखा है ब्रैकेट में ऑटोनॉमस जजमेंट. बिलीव ही नहीं हो रहा मुझे. ओके, डॉक्टर साहब लिखा है? आपकी बात मान लेते हैं. ओके, देन अपार्ट फ्रॉम दैट, rise of police state. Very good. It may lead to the rise of police state. Basically, basic civil. The public good is liberty. That is the common good, liberty, that it may have chilling impact on that. Then consent. Okay. Yes, misuse might be there. Malfeasance, it might be the case. Rise of discretionary power. And in itself. Then yes. Then
biasness and misidentification. Biasness and misidentification.
Misidentification. Very good. So the technology can have algorithm bias, and because of that, innocent people can be jailed and something like that. Yes, very good. Then science without morality. Okay. Cosmetic surgery. What is this? कॉस्मेटिक सर्जरी कहाँ से आ गया? Acha, the technology might not be efficient. Okay, I think the marriage is there in the house, so cosmetic surgery might be the word. Okay. So it might be deficient. That is not what is required here. Yes. अब आप बोल दोगे मैं तो मास्क लगा के जाऊंगी तो कैसे आप करेंगे टैकल? That is different thing altogether. Can't we? Okay. Yes. Principle of natural justice. Okay, so very nice. So now that you have, discussed from various perspectives, that is what desired. Privacy concerns, right to privacy, autonomy judgment, that is what you need to write. Algorithm bias may be there, so there may be discriminatory policing practices because the data, it may actually target a certain population. Understood? Based on data, certain vulnerable population may be targeted. There may be false positives and misidentification. And because of that, keywords like principle of natural justice, rule of law, you need to write those keywords when you are writing this answer. And then ultimately, erosion of civil liberties, which is actually a common good. How many of you give this argument, common good argument? This is very important. But ultimately, very nice. It will be eroding the civil liberties. And because of that, you can create a surveillance state or police state. It may have chilling impact on liberty. You can use that phrase. That phrase is from Shell case only. Chilling impact on liberty. That is what you can write, and because of that, there can be self-censorship and everything, and potential misuse and everything. That is what you can do. So, what would you do now? What would you do? What have you done?
Checking on pilot basis.
Brilliant. So, see, before pilot basis, you can do a thorough background check. You can have an independent audit by third party that whether this technology is good enough or not, something like that. Okay, so that is what you can do in this case. And that you need to be very sure about the technology when you are going, because I think we have discussed in the case of Doctrine of Double Effect, because this will always have an intrusion. So basically you can foresee that we will be intruding to some extent, and at the same time it will be necessary also in some regard. So you need to be very sure about the technology before you are implementing that. Principle of non-malfeasance tells that we should be very sure. We should not commit harm, at least if we cannot do good. So you need to be very sure. So as a commissioner of police, if anyone just has approached you, you cannot just take everything on face value. You need to evaluate. You need to verify the efficacy of the technology before you can implement. And of course, you can implement in a pilot basis stage. That is very important. Aadhaar was also implemented in a pilot basis. I think in Alwar district, one place was there where it was implemented as a pilot project. So pilot project is important, and also you can have public consultations. You can address their concerns that this is what we are doing, so that you can have the checks and balances. Whenever we are doing something that has dual consequences, the objective should be to minimize harm. So the thinking process should be that how you would be minimizing the harm. So what have you written? So we will be first verifying the technology to minimize the harm. We will be having public consultation to take them on board. Understood? We will be having pilot project to see whether we can implement it on larger scale or not. So we are taking every step to minimize harm. That is what you need to learn. That whenever you are taking a decision that may have dual consequences, the objective will always be that you need to minimize the harm, and you can always involve monitoring and evaluation mechanism. Like you can have a Supreme Court judge, retired Supreme Court judge or High Court judge to oversee the implementation of that, and that will actually provide lot of credibility to what you are doing. So independent oversight, transparency reports, regular audit is something that you can always invoke. The purpose is that whatever you are doing, people should trust it. And then stricter regulations. GDPR regulations, how many of you quoted in this answer? GDPR regulations. That is absolutely brilliant. Those principles you can always quote in this example, that we will be following these principles whenever we are doing it. Data protection, transparency, and we will be limiting the use also. Okay, so that is what we need to write. So whenever now, see, we need to learn how to think. This case study may come, may not come, does not matter. What we need to learn is that whenever we are doing something that is the nature of Doctrine of Double Effect, basically we can foresee the things, foresee the harm, the privacy will be affected, something like that. But at the same time, it might be necessary to curb the crime and everything. Then all we need to see is we need to minimize the harm. We need to ensure monitoring mechanism. We need to ensure justice. Okay, that is what we are doing by creating all these mechanisms of monitoring. By having third-party audit, we need to be very sure what we are doing. Something, and I think one aspect was that we should have some good, reasonable chances of success. and that veracity, you need to verify the claims of a technological firm when you are actually putting it in public domain. Understood? So this is what you need to do. So how many of you wrote along these lines? Especially from the, and the headings also. It is not just enough to dump the point like this. What is important, that towards what end you are doing what. For example, to ensure accountability like this, ongoing monitoring and evaluation mechanism, or like accountability mechanism. These headings, how many of you have given? Headings. अच्छा, और कल कुछ लोग मुझसे बात कर रहे थे, उनको मैंने बोला था हेडिंग की, कितने लोगों को बोला था, कितने लोगों ने फिर आज नहीं लिखा? तो आपने लिखा है आज? कितने लोगों ने नहीं लिखा? Headings are important because when the examiner look at heading, it gives a very good perspective that this individual has actually thought in various dimensions. He has covered monitoring evaluation part, he has covered regulations part, he has covered, the technological verification and everything. So that is what you need to do. Public consultation to ensure credibility of the project, to ensure democratic and everything. So that is what you need to write. Understood? And you can also quote the GDPR principles, that we should be limiting the use, we should have some legal basis, some rule basis should be there, data minimization, only that much data, we can delete the data also after some point of time, and there should be accountability of the people who are using the data, accuracy of the data. So basically in this case, accuracy of data and accuracy of technology, we need to ensure that. So these principles all of you can quote. In the side you can make this particular diagram, and there you can say the principles to take into account, and these are the principles that you can always take into account. Understood? So now think, what will your course of action, now that we have discussed course of action, and why? Now give me the why argument. Justice delayed is justice denied. Okay. नहीं तो this is why aspect. Why you are going ahead with the project? Greater good, because that is the prime argument. This particular action is justified in the name of greater good only. Yes or no? This is nothing but utilitarian perspective. Greatest happiness for the greatest number of people. So that should be your first argument. Utilitarianism. How many of you wrote that? बाकी लोगों ने नहीं लिखा आपने? क्यों भाई? जहां भी दो चीजें, whenever any two ends are conflicting with each other, and then also we are going ahead with one end, that means what? You are prioritizing the common good, you are prioritizing the greatest happiness for greatest number of people, and some people might be at the receiving end, and that is what utilitarianism is all about. That should be your first argument. Okay. Then social contract, it is your responsibility. And under social contract, you can take away some of the right because citizens have willingly, agreed to that. It is your duty to ensure law and order. Categorical imperative. You are commissioner of police. Courage. Courage. Then beneficence. Beneficence is there because you are intending the right thing only, and you are taking all the step to ensure non-malfeasance is also there. Basically, that it should not cause harm, and you are taking step for that. So that is how you need to write. Steps to reduce, there are elaborate measures to reduce potential misuse. In bracket, principle of non-malfeasance. That is why you are going ahead with the project, because you have put in place the measures for misuse of the tech. In bracket, principle of non-malfeasance. It should not start from principle of non-malfeasance. That is what you need to understand, the statement. Okay, and the justice. Justice, because ultimately it is about justice. So that is what you can write in this particular case, social contract, everything, and a lot of justification is there. From different angle you can talk about. Yes, as far as possible, everything, you will try to maintain informed consent is there as far as possible. People are participating in the project willingly, their consent is there, some audit mechanism there, high court judge are retired, Supreme Court judge can monitor the implementation, so that can be a very good mechanism. How many of you wrote such mechanism, third party audit, or perhaps making a Supreme Court or High Court judge? Anyone? किसी ने किया? Independent body क्या करेगी? क्या करेगी independent body? तो कैसे तो गलत है, यूज तो टेक्नोलॉजिकल फर्म ही एड्रेस करेगी ना. यू हैव डेवलप्ड द टेक्नोलॉजी, यू आर एलॉन मस्क, वुड यू अलाउ बिल गेट्स टू यूज योर टेक्नोलॉजी while you are providing service to government of India? No. Third party is required from two angles. You need to understand. First is to ensure the claims of the private company are good enough, because you are not the person who is acting in technical capacity. And B, to ensure monitoring and evaluation, accountability. These two aspects are very much important when we are dealing with this. That first we need to ensure that whatever the claims are, they are good. And also we need to ensure an ongoing monitoring mechanism. That is very much important. So how many of you wrote that? Monitoring and accountability mechanism. Good, very good. बाकी किसी ने नहीं लिखा? MOU से क्या करेंगे? किस किस के बीच में MOU? क्या है MOU में? Yes, that is brilliant. MOU is brilliant for storage and deletion of the data as per GDPR principle. That will be a very good step. But still it is not an independent source of accountability. Still it is very good step. Shabash. Understood? MOU is a very good step here. That you will be following GDPR principle in terms of how you are storing data, managing data and everything, so that you can hold them accountable later on. That's a brilliant suggestion. Shabash. Now you are thinking on the right line. Monitoring evaluation, why it did not come into, See, internal technological division, Ankit, may not inspire confidence. If you are making an internal committee, he is saying that internal police committee is there, that is monitoring. Who will be misusing the technology? Police only. The police is using the technology. So there should be an independent mechanism to ensure that the oversight is there. So that is why internal mechanism may not inspire that much of confidence in the people. Ultimately it is about the confidence. Ultimately it is about credibility. Open sourcing of Algo to ensure transparency in Algo and the possible loopholes. Not sure that whether any company would be, would be fine with this, that they are, because that is what technology they have developed, so they may not be fine with it. Tech in phased manner, that is what pilot project. I think I discussed that, Suhani. The pilot, this has to progress from pilot study. You cannot just implement that. Monitoring evaluation should. Acha, Girvan Fetter cell mechanism. Anyone? Okay, good. So this is how you need to think. Someone I think was discussing with me yesterday, and I was telling her that suppose there is some guest, they are going to come to your house. Suppose it is for your brother's wedding, because that is fashion nowadays. Okay, so suppose that is there. So and you have the responsibility that you have to ensure everything is done. Then how would you think? Would you only think that what are the dresses that everyone needs to wear? What are the dresses that I need to wear? How I have to look? Would you think from that perspective only? Or you would be dividing your work, that this is how perhaps the maintenance of the house would look like in terms of cleaning and everything. This is how dressing pattern would look like. This is how I will be managing the catering and everything. This is how I will be managing things. So basically you are dividing the work in different spheres. That is how you need to look at it when you are answering such question. Monitoring, accountability, ensuring Girvan Fetter cell mechanism, ensuring the technological efficiency that is there. So that bouquet of decision making will give an overall perspective to the examiner that you are addressing the problem holistically. If you are only talking about privacy, it does not make any sense. You need to ensure mechanisms to ensure that the privacy is not abused. Understood? Any doubt?
Can we more on using it for assistance only, like in traffic crowd control instead of serious crime issues?
That does not solve the problem. It is like pilot case study only. That you are using it to some smaller issues, later on based on that, pilot study only. Still, even in that traffic case study, even while you are using it for the traffic, there can be misuse. So ultimately you need to write these steps. Don't kill the case study. You understood? I think someone was asking me. You understood his doubt and why it is killing the case study? Because still it does not address the problem. What he is saying, perhaps we can use it for traffic, not for higher level of crimes. And I am saying still it does not address the concerns of privacy. and the intrusion or the lot of discussion that is there, and it is still like a pilot case study only, that you are perhaps solving it from some lesser area of crime. So, and there also you need to write the same thing again, and that is why you are not actually solving the problem. Yeah, Shubham, you can write that. We can always learn from the countries. Navneet, GDPR is what we are learning from the European countries in the concept of right to privacy. So yes, how to balance privacy and technology. Understood?
So, the legal perspective should be incorporated in the course of action or just after that?
In justification, it should mostly be there. In course of action, it is mostly the secondary layer of justification that you are writing. That to ensure accountability. To ensure accountability and to ensure monitoring, to ensure this, this participating, to ensure public participation and inclusive approach to decision making. So these are still ethical keywords: inclusive approach to decision making, participatory decision making, accountability. But a broader degree of argument, utilitarian, something like that, it will come in justification. So that is the primary justification. The second justification that I discussed.
So this is not explicitly asked in the question. Should we just make it a habit to have?
It is specifically asked in the question.
What will be the course of action and why?
This is why.
So the why aspect, it should be intertwined with the course of action. Like for example, we have a third party audit and then we justify how it gets.
Because that will be overlap. You will be overlapping to a great deal.
So we have to separate it out.
Yes, that's what I discussed in the first class, that you need to write justification. One is broader section, that why you are going ahead with this. So that is what we are arguing. Why we are going? Because greatest happiness for the greatest number of people. Why we are going? Because we are putting in mechanism to ensure that the abuse will be less. Why we are going? Because of, let's say, I have duty to ensure law and order. Why I am not going against it? Because I have duty. I cannot just run away from this technology. Why I have to put this mechanism? Because again, I need to ensure it is not abused. Why I am going for the greatest number of people? Because I know some of the privacy will be harmed. So this justification from broader course of action, that why I am choosing this course of action instead of rejecting it altogether. And that course of action is for a specific action, why you are doing what you are doing. So independent monitoring and evaluation to inspire trust in the public, like that. So they are also ethical keywords: trust, credibility, accountability, monitoring, inclusive, democracy, participatory, but they are more specific to course of action that you are doing. Understood? Any doubt online? Did you understand this part? Whatever we have discussed, did you understand? Eventual decision to complement, not replace, that you can write, Have all of you understood this part that we have just discussed regarding two levels of justification? That why these two levels of justification is different? अंडरस्टूड? ऑनलाइन वाले बस डाउट पूछने में रिस्पॉन्ड करते हैं, बाकी सर आप खुद देखते रहो और चेहरा भी नहीं दिखाते, बंद करके देखते हैं. यू सी. So the next question is on rescue operation. So you are heading the rescue operation and people are seething with anger. It is not really a great sight. So they have even heckled with some of your team members. They are severely injured. So, what will be your response in such trying circumstances? What should we, a photo you want to take? Okay, please take. Many people have asked for the holiday tomorrow. Yes? Okay. Okay then. So we will have class on Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday. Okay? Not tomorrow. Second test? नहीं, तो test in the last two classes I will increase the number of questions. In the last two tests, instead of 4, you will be attempting 6 questions. So that is how I will compensate for one test that we lost due to orientation. Understood? CSAT, 4 questions for 1 mini test, 1.5 test is equal to 1.5 into 4 is equal to 6. Yeah, so 6 questions. There will be 6 questions in the last 2 tests. GDPR principle you should have quoted. How many of you quoted? Nice, nice, very nice. Doctor sir, what happened? GDPR क्यों याद नहीं आया? आना चाहिए था ये तो. GDPR is regarding that only. Learn. Done? Done? Okay, so let us move to the next question. The people who are attending classes online, can you just drop your name in the Telegram just now? I just want to see all of your names. In the Telegram, none of you should, post your name here. Okay? Everyone who is attending online, just drop your name, full name. Yes. I Srivastav is there. Please write your name, all of you. Someone please count whether they are, how many they have written. अपने हाथ ऊपर रखो सब. Very nice. Done. All of you have written your name. कितने हो गए? हाँ? All of you done? बताओ कितने काउंट कर गए? अच्छा. I think a few people are remaining. Okay. All of you done? Okay. All of you will get a message from me personally on the Telegram. Okay. Those who are attending the classes regularly, it should help you. Okay. So please watch your Telegram message. Okay. I will message you. It is done now. How many people? Okay. So the last name is Udit. Okay, so I think let us just discuss this. You are heading the rescue operations. So what will be your response? What will be your response? Okay, what is the problem that we are trying to address here? Let us just identify the different problems that are there. What are the problems that are there? Anger issue with the public, okay. Team motivation, okay. Then rescue operation, okay. Then
Role of leader.
that is overall part of that only. Okay. So basically one thing is the relationship between the administration and the people. One thing is the problem, the relief problem that is there, the rescue and relief operation that is there. Okay. So the third thing is your team, the morale is down. Okay. So these are the 3 important aspects that you need to address here. Okay. So that is how you need to think. You need to just divide the problem one by one, because your answer should not be just that what should be done in course of relief pattern only. You need to address each of these problems. You need to address each of these problems. I think it is done. All of you have now written your name. Okay. So now, okay. So why? What is the course of action? How would you start your answer? Is calling off is an option? That now some team members have been, people have beaten them, and because of that, motivation and morale is not there and everything, So is that an option? That is not an option. Okay. Then what should be done? So you may start with your answer with that only, that calling off is not an option, even though I think they are asking you to call these things off. Yes, so you can start with your answer, and the arguments are similar argument that we discussed in the context of COVID, that why we cannot leave people at their own. The same argument will come. Duty, Kant, utilitarianism, virtue, common good, and also if you call the operations now, there will be more crisis of trust and credibility, more alienation of people. So people will not actually trust you. So it will further, put them away than to build the bridge. It will be like, pushing them away from you if you are calling the operation. So at the start only you can talk about that calling off, even though the morale is down, people have been, beaten by the locals and everything. Still calling off is not an option, because it will do this. Understood? So now, what should be done?
Specifically, what the team members to make aware about their duties.
Okay. So what should be your one of the prime thing is? So yes, so one of the prime objective is motivation morale of the team member. Another is pacifying the local people, because they are seething with anger. Otherwise, they may create more obstacles. So what you should do in this case then? First, perhaps you can address their misgivings, that why, whatever they are thinking, you can explain the reasons that why these things were delayed, that you are actually trying, everything, but still things were delayed because of these reasons. And if need be, you will fix accountability of the people. If suppose there is willful delay, if suppose there is delay that is because of, that people, the people are guilty, then you must hold them accountable. Always have this approach. In yesterday's case study also, corporate governance case study also, I think we discussed that we should hold people accountable. When you hold people accountable, it actually reassures the other people, the victim, that they know that that this leader means business, because he is making heads roll. So that is how you will gain their trust, by addressing their misgivings and telling them the reason, because transparency is something that you can always hope for, that if you are transparent, that you can actually hope for that the people will understand, and if you are telling them the reason, they'll understand why your relief operations were delayed, and if any fault was there, then you have taken action against that person also. Okay, so you are actually viewing them as partner in governance, rather than having a paternalistic approach that, okay, we are now here to save you. It is not the case. You and the administration, the government, administration and the people, they need to work together, and then only things will improve. That is the perspective that is there, and that require that there should not be any misgivings, there should not be any lack of transparency, there should not be any opaqueness that is there between administration and the people. So that is the first step that is there. You should address that. Then second important part is the morale and the motivation of the team. Now here you can approach to one of the two approaches. One approach is that you are holding the people accountable now, those who have taken part in the beating of their officers, and you are simply prosecuting them as per the action, as per the rule of law that is there. Section 186 IPC code, usually you will find that, in a lot of hospitals and everything. And so usually it is because of that you are saying that you will be starting a penal provision, against the people, and that will create a sort of deterrence, and that will create, a source of motivation and morale for the subordinate, that the leader is standing by them. Understood? So either you can adopt this approach that you will be going by the legal action, you will be holding people accountable, that will create more deterrence for future also, something like that, and our people will also be happy because our leader is standing by them. Second and alternative approach is that also you can adopt depending upon your personality, okay, that you can actually forgive them. Because forgiveness is the attribute of strong. Forgiveness, from forgiveness also, you can start the new building of relationships with the people. You can tell them, see, we had the option to prosecute you, but at this point of time, we are forgiving you. But if you take this law and order again in your hand, then we will be very ruthless with you. And perhaps this can break the ice that is there between administration and the people. But for that, your subordinate, they must be with you. I mean, it should not be the case that they want everything and you are like acting like Gandhiji here. Okay, so basically the point is the team should be at the one place and it will require a lot of convincing on your part towards subordinates. So they should be like, yes, I mean, that is how perhaps we can go towards it, and that will break the ice that is there between administration and people, and perhaps it will pay for a greater, a more proximate relationship between administration and people. So either of the two approaches you can have, neither approach is bad. Okay, but it should suit your personality in a way that it should not be the case in another section answer you are writing, forgiveness is the attribute of a strong, you are forgiving there, here you are taking action. Okay, so it should align with the personality. Any other approaches is fine. Taking action is also absolutely fine because that will create deterrence, and also forgiving them is also fine because they will also understand the attitude change will happen. It is up to you. But at the same time, you should request additional security personnel. You cannot always take the word of the citizens. I mean, they are saying, yes sir, we will not do this thing, and then they are beating the subordinates again. So that is something that you can always say. Okay. So now you have addressed the relationship part. You have addressed the motivation part. Motivation part you have addressed by either forgiving them or taking action plus seeking reinforcement. Understood? So now we should talk about with respect to relief operations. Okay, so that is how we need to address our answer. Our answer has to be methodological. Whenever we are targeting any problem, we should treat that from a systemic perspective. This is what we are addressing, this is what we are addressing, this is what we are addressing. This is what will help you in terms of writing a good answer. So why this can be introduction actually, that no, even if the situation is like this, then also calling off is not an option. What should be done? Address the misgiving. Either you go the forgiveness route or you hold the people accountable. Any of the route you take. Need not take both the route. Both the route will not work together. Any of the route you take. And then the leadership imperative that is there, that you are requesting the backup of the forces, because ultimately, because in disaster, extreme commitment is desired, because the personnel, they are also putting them in harm's way, not just with respect to the people anger, but also natural calamity, they can also lose their life. They are also not exactly safe when they are there. So you need, of course, additional, the motivation and morale is very much important, and for that you must create the environment of safety by requesting more personnel. So that you must do. That is very important, irrespective of whatever approaches you are having, irrespective of that. Okay, and after that it is about addressing the root cause, that is the relief operation, because of that only they were seething with anger that they are not helping us and something like that. Understood? So this is what you can write. So in addressing the root cause, what is important, that you are following the SOPs that are there and you are identifying the trigger mechanisms. What are trigger mechanisms? Just like all of you know the graded response action plan, GRAP, that is there in the context of air quality management in NCR. What is that? That is trigger mechanism only. As soon as you reach this level, this is what will be triggered. As soon as you reach this level, this is what will be triggered. So SOPs in disaster management, government has already formed a lot of SOPs that in such situation, this is how you should respond. Understood? So SOPs and trigger mechanism should be there. That is what you can use. Then in disaster, whenever you are managing a disaster, some things you need to understand. One is there will always be problem of personnel, because government does not just have enough personnel. It is not just humanly possible. Okay, so you need to mobilize all the resources of the community, and in that local bodies always play a great role, because you have people who are amongst the local people only, okay, and they know them. They might not know their MP, they might not know their MLA, but they know their Panch, Sarpanch, Ward member, municipal member. Okay, so they know the local body member. So they are important. Second part is that in that they have representation from the weaker sections of the society, and because of that you can hope for the social justice, that when they are monitoring things, then they will be ensuring the social justice in terms of meeting the demands of the vulnerable people. That is also very important, local bodies. And also, whatever you are doing, at times it may require attitude change and anything, that also will come handy with the local. So local body involvement is very, very important no matter whatever you are doing, in the government. So you can involve them, you can involve NGOs, you can involve private sector, voluntary, the civil, the NCC, NSS, you can involve them also. So basically that is the biggest problem that is there, the problem of personnel. At times you just do not have enough personnel. So that should be your part. Another challenge that is there when you are managing the disaster is that you need to ascertain the magnitude of the relief very, very quickly. Because if your assessment is rather poor, suppose the demand is of 100 ton of wheat, 100 ton of food grain, and you have only ascertained that we require, let's say, 40 ton. Can you imagine the kind of havoc it will create? Understood? So as soon as possible, you must ascertain the demand for the relief pattern very, very quickly, and you should request all those things, all the relief pattern, all the relief material that is required, and you should communicate that to everyone, that this is what we need. And that damage assessment should not be done just by you. It must have representation from multidisciplinary perspective, because you may not be the right person to know and evaluate every need that is there. You may not be the right person perhaps to understand the requirement of women, of elderly, something like that. So basically you must have a multidisciplinary perspective, multidisciplinary team that should do the damage assessment, and it will also give a sense of transparency and accountability that yes, it is not you only who is managing these things, but actually the team that is there. Discussion abuse also you are curtailing, that there is a damage assessment team, multidisciplinary team is there that is actually doing that. And also another problem that is there when you are doing this relief pattern is a lot of corruption is there in the relief pattern. And there are chances of injustice, because whenever the disaster has struck, you will always see the people who belong to the HAPS, the higher section of the society, they will always find ways to, cope up with the disaster. It is only the people with weaker section, they may find it very difficult to actually get hold of the government relief material. And how would you ensure that this sort of power imbalance is not played out, and at least in terms of relief distribution? So for that, you must create again a monitoring mechanism that should have people from weaker section of society, local body, so that they can monitor that whatever you are doing, you are actually catering to the demand of the vulnerable section of the society. And this should have representation from the local bodies, because they should be able to tell the people that we know that what district administration is doing is absolutely right, and they are doing whatever they can actually. And that will inspire a lot of trust. There is a book by P. Sainath, Everyone Loves a Good Drought, and that book is about the rampant corruption that is there in Maharashtra, every year when there is a drought. Because lot of you talk about the Ganga, so much of money has been spent on the cleaning of the Ganga, but where all of that money has gone. So disaster are actually also an opportunity for a lot of people to fill their coffer, because accountability mechanism, monitoring mechanism, they actually become slow, because all of the people, they gear towards managing the disaster, that they should save life. No one cares about how the money is going and how everything. So that is very much important, that when you are distributing the relief, you must ensure justice. So for that also you must have something, and then that safe drinking water, sanitized conditions, the basic amenities that should be there. This vigilante committees, that is what I was discussing, of a community member to keep the watch over the activities, so that that is there. Another important aspect is, it is not there, I think it is below this line, that is again disaster has struck, and because of that, lot of people will be having lot of mental health crisis. Always have trauma care and counseling whenever you are dealing with disaster and crisis management. trauma care and counseling must be your, must be a point that you must mention. We have already discussed in the context of acid attack, rape victim, or any such sort of problem that are there, you will always have counseling. Here also you talk about that. Counseling, trauma care and counseling, you should always have. Understood? So if I just can recapitulate everything, in terms of disaster response, what you need to think, A, you don't have much time to think, and that is why SOPs and trigger mechanism, that is one part. Second important challenge is the challenges of personnel. You do not have too many people on the ground, so you need to just gather too many people. So for that you can get hold of private sector, NGOs, local bodies, defense volunteer, civil defense volunteer that are there, NCC, NSS, anyone. Understood? Third important part is the damage assessment and the requisition of the relief material. That should be done very quickly and through a multidisciplinary team, so that you are not biased and everything. And another important part is justice in terms of distribution of the relief pattern. For that you must have vigilante committee that should include at least the representation from the vulnerable section of the people, local bodies and everything, so that they know what you are doing is good, it is absolutely fair, transparent. You must take care of the needs of the vulnerable section of society when you are distributing the relief, elderlies, women, children, people with disability, because they are more vulnerable than others whenever the disaster has struck any place. Understood? So you must take care of them. Mental health crisis and everything, safe drinking water, these are additional part. Understood or not? Understood? So as soon as any disaster, this is a general framework that you can apply. Any disaster that has struck, that is what you can do. Understood? Apart from that, let us now just discuss crisis management in a bit more detail. Okay, apart from this case study now we are discussing the crisis management in a bit more detail. So crisis management is not just about quick response. A lot of disaster management is also about risk reduction. That is, before disaster has struck you, before crisis has struck you, what you are doing, when the disaster has struck you, what you are doing, and what you are doing in the recovery phase. So let us now discuss one by one. Okay, just give me a minute. So when the disaster is not there, you need to prepare for it. Time to prepare the roof is when the sun is still shining. Okay, so when the sun is still shining, you should prepare the roof just before COVID second wave. Understood? So for that, one of the important aspect is institutional and legal perspective. See, we are wired to think in terms of functions, that this is what must be done. For example, the assessment of building should be there, whether they are following the protocol in terms of fire safety or not, earthquake resistant buildings are there or not. They are simply the functions. We need to think in terms of structures. That is what we need to learn. When we are operating at macro level, we need to think in terms of structures. It is both legal structure and institutional structure. So that is what you need to discuss. For example, Disaster Management Act, it is a legal structure that is there, and NDMA, SDMA, DDMA, they are institutional structures that are there. So you need to see that first, that whether all these structures are put in place or not. That is very important. Whether you have legal backing or not, because later on you cannot say that we do not have any law to back up our action. Judiciary will be like anything, they will be after you. If you do not have any law, if you are making such a big decision, lockdown is there, and you do not have any law to back your decision, then you will have a lot of answer. You will have a lot of answer to do in the judiciary, because your actions, when you are depriving people of the liberty, they must be lawful action. Law should sanction that. So you should have a law for that beforehand. That is very much important. So legal and institutional perspective, that is important. After that, hazard and vulnerability analysis must be there of the area. You talk about flood management, a question may come on flood management, then hazard and vulnerability analysis. For example, which areas are flood prone, which areas are relatively safe. So when hazard area is hazardous, it is hazard prone, then you should not have lot of people settled there. But we see that a lot of people are settled in the Yamuna floodplain, in the Ganga floodplain, and every year we see crisis because of that, because suddenly the water will rise and everything. So hazard and vulnerability analysis. Earthquake zones, all of us know. How many of you can actually draw the map of earthquake zones just now? Earthquake zones map. कितने लोग draw कर सकते हैं तुरंत? Earthquake zones. अरे हाथ खड़ा करके रखो. बाकी लोग? See, then you are not mains ready. This question can come in your paper 1, GS paper 1, GS paper 3, All of you should have these maps ready, that which area of the country are flood prone, which area of the country are drought prone, which area of the country, and a percentage also. 12% of the area is flood prone, 8% of the area is cyclone prone. I think 57 or 60% of the area is drought prone. Okay, you should have this percentage, that will be part of introduction in this answer. Mains ready, you are not mains ready, you should have these facts ready. Okay, coming back to the discussion. So hazard management. So when we have earthquake zones map prepared, what does it tell you? That we should, if we are living in a very high seismic zone, then we should not have a very tall structure, something like that. So that hazard and vulnerability analysis we should do. After that, we should plan for risk reduction. Planning means that we should not put people there. When we are building a any particular infrastructure, then we should see that it has earthquake resistance features. There should be fire safety mechanism that should be there. So that is planning for risk reduction. Apart from that, now think in terms of personnel, because ultimately the people will be at the forefront when they are doing the relief pattern. So capacity building of the community and the government agency. The mock drills are important part of that. Have you seen mock drills? You must conduct a lot of mock drill, capacity building, because ultimately they should know how to respond to the crisis ultimately. Okay, so mock drills are important part of that. So capacity building. Then adopting risk reduction techniques. They are specific techniques like GM crop, drought resistance variety in the case of drought, in the case of earthquake resistance building that are there. In landslides, the bunding and everything is there, afforestation is there. So basically that is adopting risk reduction techniques. And then installing early warning signals. Just like in cyclone, we can warn people that the cyclone is going to make a landfall, should vacate the areas. Early warning signals should be there. And most important, finance, that we should have financial instrument for risk reduction. Because it is said that the earthquakes don't kill, buildings do. Because people have very little risk perception with respect to disasters. How many of us have actually health insurance? Health insurance, कितने लोग हैं? Last class में मैंने बोला था ना? In one of the class I have discussed that. No? अच्छा ऐसे क्लास में मैंने बोला होगा, sorry. Okay, there I discussed that. I will ask them. Okay, so please get the health insurance done. Okay, it is important. So because we do not have this risk perception, हमको कहाँ बीमारी होगी? We are good only, we are fine only. But doctors will tell you, doctors, what you can tell people? कि बीमारी कहीं से भी हो सकती है. Understood? So that is the problem. And it can actually cost you. It can actually cost you a lot. Entire your family saving can be wiped out because of one disease. So it is important that you have the insurance ready. So risk perception is very much important. And in this case, in disaster and accident, not many people are having insurance coverage. So that is something that all of you should strive towards. That is like preparing beforehand when a disaster is struck. Understood? So now, instead of going into detail, let us just understand a broader level. We are talking about legal structure and institutional structure. We are talking about analysis, hazard, that is preparing beforehand. We are talking about personnel, that is capacity building. We are talking about financial management, financial things that we have to manage. So basically that is how we need to diversify the risk reduction efforts that we are making, and they are very common to every disaster that you are doing. Understood? Yes or no? So that is what we can understand. So when a disaster is struck, then you have trigger mechanism and SOP, immediate rescue and relief operation, coordination of the different agencies that are there, because that is another job of the district magistrate, that person need to coordinate with so many people, because so many agencies are actually operating at the ground level. And then installing effective information dissemination. That is very important, that I think we missed, that installation of effective information dissemination system. See, in disaster, when the disaster is actually struck, lot of time, the actual communication, it may not be there, because the power is not there, the TV is not working, something like that. So the chances of spreading of rumors are very high. So when the rumors spread, it can make it very, very difficult for administration to actually help you, because again, you will be seething with anger, the same problem may arise. So you must have clear channels of information dissemination. That is very important. And the same thing, monitoring and evaluation. Monitoring and evaluation, that is also equally important. Understood? Understood or not? So that is what we need to see in terms of quick response. And then recovery. Recovery should be planned. Yes, rehabilitation with more sustainable livelihood, so that we are integrating the development in the all those features, integrating risk reduction features in the reputation measures, focus on weaker section again, and monitoring, audit, and evaluation. Okay, so this is the perspective whenever we are managing any disaster. Okay, and when we are managing the disasters, attributes that are required from the perspective of bureaucracies are unity of command. Okay, you must have unity of command. In the case of COVID, we all of us had unity of command. We were listening to Prime Minister. It was not like the Rajasthan CM will say one thing and the Delhi CM will say another thing. It was not the case. All of us were following what Prime Minister was doing because this is what is required. You cannot have too many centers of decision making in the context of disaster because you do not have that much time. You want more uniformity and everything. So unity of command, communication. It is very, very important. Prime Minister was coming, every few days asking us to do so many things. Communication, the health secretary, he was there doing all the press briefing that these many cases are there, we are doing this. This is about exact communication. Very, very important. Rumors, very, very important. Okay. So communications are very important. And then in terms of qualities, if you see courage, fortitude, integrity, dedication to public service, because it actually asks you to go beyond just doing minimum. A DM can just simply sit and see this is what at most I can do. Another perspective is that he can anticipate the demand and the crisis also, and he can take decisions beforehand. I think we discussed about an IS officer, I think, who predicted the oxygen crisis and planted oxygen, had one oxygen plant. Understood? One Nimborkar, something like that. One IS officer is there. We discussed about him. Arey bhai, I'm forgetting the name. कितने लोग पहली बार सुन रहे हैं इसको? How many of you are hearing for the first time? किसी को याद भी नहीं है. So that officer, you can be that officer because it requires a lot of dedication to public service, that you are anticipating and doing everything, and also you can simply just sit quiet and see because that is what you can do. So it requires a lot of application on the ground. Understood? So that is what you can discuss. So now you want to note it perhaps. Qualities, I think they are easy. Dedication to public service is very much important. How many of you wrote that? Dedication to public service. How many of you wrote fortitude? Cardinal virtue, fortitude. Yes? Yes. Integrity, because no one is watching you at times. Rajendra Bharud. That's what he is saying. Ankit is saying. What the eyes do not see. Huh?
Sir, when we are answering this disaster mitigation part, how much pages of case study should that take? Because it becomes GS3 answer.
And you should not be shy away from writing that. I mean, you tell me, I think I've discussed that before, that if the question is like that, your response will have to be like that only. See, in your latter half of the syllabus, what are the syllabus topic? Okay, RTI, citizen charter, social audit is not there, but UPSC is asked that. That's a governance topic only. But governance is not part of ethics. RTI by itself means transparency. Social audit by itself means measures of social accountability. And in these mechanisms also, when we are addressing the people, that vigilante committee, does it not mean accountability mechanism? Accountability is not ethics. When we are taking the vulnerable section, transparency is there, it is not an ethical keyword. I'm talking about that. Is it not an ethical keyword? So it is your narrow mind which looks at things from that perspective, that there has to be words like integrity, objectivity, leadership, emotional intelligence is required here. Okay, so only when these keywords are there, this participatory manner, what is this? Is this not ethics? I'm asking you, is this not ethics? So it is, see, we see ethics from a very narrow perspective, and that is why we are shying away from diversifying our point. Don't be that student. Okay, because you have to address this. How else you will be tackling the root cause? Understood? So definitely, okay. So don't be shy and use these keywords, because we are using these keywords. Use these keywords: transparency, accountability, monitoring mechanisms, because that is important. Please note.
So in the response to the situation, can be subdivided into short-term response and long-term, and in that
Short-term, long-term response you can divide. Yes, yes, you can divide. Done? Is it done? P. Sainath Folk is there. Everyone loves a good route. Drone, etc. you can definitely use. Definitely use. Good. Use of technology is good. Done? You want me to read online walo all these points? Okay, so this is creating, this is risk reduction, quick response, recovery, all these, this is from second ARC. Okay, creating legal and institutional framework, hazard and vulnerability analysis, the second point, hazard and vulnerability analysis, the second point. थोड़ा सा AC को बढ़ा दीजिए, जो नीचे बैठा है AC के भाई आगे पीछे हो जाओ, मुझे पसीना आ रहा है अब एकदम. Creating legal and institutional framework, hazard and vulnerability analysis, planning for risk reduction, capacity building of community and government agency, capacity building, adopting risk reduction techniques, installing early warning system. Someone take the photograph and post in the group. आप फोटो लेके डालिए. ठीक है, I think someone will post this photograph in group. Okay, so the next question. Before we discuss the next question, I think we should discuss this question. Landslide, again landslide. Okay, so this question we have discussed to some extent, yes? Now we already have doctors amongst us. Okay, so let me just ask them. What would you do? Dr. Saab, what would you do?
So being the doctor at the DM, is also bound by that Hippocratic oath. That
What you should do?
blood transfer should be done, and we should take the responsibility of saving life and amid the team.
So what would you do? Would you just transfer the blood that is there?
After safe screening of the
Screening for?
any HIV, like
Got it. What you would do?
Sir, I think there are not much equipment for screening and everything. I think first I will take an informed consent with the patient. I will explain what are the consequences will be. After that, I will take a participatory decision with other doctors also. Then, if at all there is an emergency that I have to give a transfusion, then I will also report it to higher authorities that these are the conditions that I have given.
So would you transmit the blood without verifying? Without screening?
If at all there are any equipment for screening, I will go for that.
And if there are not equipment for screening, then?
Then I think I have to go for transfusion because saving life is more important as compared to falling blood.
transfusion is more important than risk of infection.
That is what you would do in actual circumstances also. I'm just asking. For all that matter, you may be giving that disease to that person.
It can be given, but the shock, if the patient was in shock, it can lead to death only. It's already in labor and lot of blood loss.
Yeah, blood loss is there. Yes.
It will amount to death of 2 lives.
Death of 2 life. Okay. Okay, so this is actually a very good case study. Okay, that UPSC gave, and this case study is about law versus ethics. That what you would follow. Okay. So Ishika ji, नहीं sorry, कृति आपने हे भगवान ये लोग लेटर पे चले. अब यही बोलता हूँ जब बोलता हूँ तो हमेशा नहीं लेना है, कभी कभी लेना पड़ सकता है. हाँ, क्या किया? ये अब किल द केस स्टडी. आपको समझ में आ गया ये कैसे किलिंग केसडी कैसे किल कर दी इन्होंने. ठीक है कि भैया आई विल नॉट बी आंसरिंग अबाउट द ब्लड, आई विल जस्ट रश टू द हॉस्पिटल एंड देन आई विल ट्रीट. शी हैज किल्ड द केस स्टडी. देयर इज नो डिलेमा. वेयर इज द डिलेमा? आई कैन नॉट सी इट. द हॉस्पिटल इज वेरी मच नियर. वी कैन जस्ट गो देयर एंड गेट द ट्रांसफ्यूजन डन. तो ये तो बिल्कुल ही केस स्टडी का आंसर नहीं है. अरे ओके इश्का जी, व्हाट डिड यू डू? Brilliant, brilliant, very. Yes, this is UBDT only. This is unbanked direct blood transfer only. Yes, it is that only. It is the case of. Very good, brilliant, brilliant. आप बहुत अच्छा लिख रहे हैं, शाबाश. That is a very brilliant quote regarding humanity and everything. किया क्या भैया ये तो बताओ. कर दिया आपने, चला दिया blood. Very good. So basically, how many of you did not, went ahead with it, did not actually go ahead with this transfusion? Online वालों? क्या बोल रहे हैं? क्या हो गया? आप क्यों हंस रहे हो भाई? हाँ? क्या कर दिया आपने? ड्रोन बुला लिया? मोहसिन ने हाथ खड़ा कर दिया. अच्छा, आपने क्या किया मोहसिन? क्या नहीं किया? ब्लड ट्रांसफ्यूज नहीं किया. लॉ इज लॉ. आई विल फॉलो द लॉ. हाउ मेनी ऑफ यू डिड नॉट डू इट?
ऑप्शन अवेलेबल में रिफ्यूजल करके मतलब कमेटी बना सकते हैं, बट वो टाइम लगेगा. लाइक ऑप्शन
कमेटी का टाइम नहीं है. Okay, you are already a doctor, and that too from AIMS. Yes. See, brilliant doctor. So he's telling you you are not a farji doctor, Very good. So basically the case is this, a case of UBDT only, and this UBDT is actually allowed, allowed in the case of Indian law, currently allows UBDT only for the armed forces. So it allowed for the armed forces, unbanked, direct blood transfer, it is allowed for the armed forces, and in USA it is done very routinely. India, it is banned because they want to curb the, infectious diseases like HIV. They want to curb that. So because of that, in India it is banned. And the important fact is that only 30% of the total blood demand is fulfilled by blood bank. See, 70% unmet demand is there. And in rural areas, people are routinely doing it, and saving the life also. Because the blood bank is not just there. It is very, very important. Okay, so that is what you need to understand, that it has been done in India, and this Drug Technology Advisory Board, it sat and ultimately it said no, that we should not do it. They said again, there were demand for that we should actually change that. It is high time to make UBDT allowed, legally allowed, but then they said no, it is more important to curb infections. It is more important to curb HIV than to actually protect people. That is what they thought. Okay, and they did not actually sanction it. So the classic case of law versus ethics, that you can use it. I think we have discussed this example. Not many people will actually use this example. Now coming back to the case studies. Now, even though I have said again and again that you should not break the law, okay, this is a very fit case of breaking the law. Okay, because I have also given you the example of the traffic constable which stopped a lady from going to hospital in the case of VVIP movement, and he was later suspended. Okay, so you must not narrowly see the law. So when I said usually, if you should not break the law, this is what I mean by term usually. Until unless there is imminent threat to life of the people, something like that, he will not be breaking the law. Okay, but if cases are like that, suppose you have not you have not gone with the blood transfusion, and you are criticizing bureaucracy for rules becoming the end in themselves. कितना hypocritic लग रहा है ये. You know your answer. It is lot of hypocrisy that is in section A. You are writing rules are becoming end in themselves, and section B you are following the rules as if it is an end in themselves. Can you see that? So this is again a very, very perfect case of doctrine of double effect. Very, very perfect case of doctrine of double effect, that we have to do something, we have to do it, otherwise people will die. Now, what are the important principles that you should follow? Because when we talk about such decisions, these decisions are not easy, and we have to convince the examiner that, see, we could do whatever we could, but this is how we have to do what we did. Okay, so in all such cases, what is more important, more than the decision, is the justification and the qualification of decision making, that this is how we are arriving at this decision. Okay, so first important aspect is that it should be actually matter of last resort. That is very, very important. I mean, everything, and there should be imminent danger of life. That is also very, very important. That you need to verify and see everything. I'm just telling you generally. Second important thing is informed consent. Because whatever you are doing, ultimately, their life belongs to them. Ultimately, they have to take a very informed choice, very informed consent. So informed consent should be there, and for that you must explain all the scenario, you must respect their wishes, you must respect their autonomy and everything. That is also very much important. And then after that, another important part is that you must at least screen the blood. You must at least screen the blood. Screen for these infections. You must at least screen the blood. There I think opinion might be divided, because principle of non-malfeasance will say that if you are not sure, you should not go ahead with this. Because if you are not sure of the safety of the blood in the first place, then how you can go ahead with the blood transfusion? Because it will be like knowingly killing the person. Okay, so that is a very gray area in terms of decision making. That is up to totally you, that how you should make that decision making. But the principle is that autonomy of the people those who are making the decision, it should be respected. They should have the informed choice, and also it should be matter of last resort. And also, I mean, it should be imminent danger to life. And screening, at least you should strive for. The screening is at least done. After that, since you have now gone ahead with the transfusion and everything, after screening has been done, that infectious disease is not there, then you should hold yourself accountable. You should inform the authorities that a decision has been done. You should write down everything in a written document, and you should be willing to face the inquiry. That is how you will show your ethical side, that you are not shying away from taking responsibility for the decision that you are taking, that yes, but you are telling the people that in what circumstances you are making that decision. It is not an easy decision. It is a very difficult decision, but you have to take that decision, and you are not shying away from that decision. You will be taking the responsibility for it. So that is what you can write, and you can hope for that things will be lenient for you. Okay. So that is what you can write, and there also you can give the argument that rules exist to serve people, to ensure public interest, and most of all is the public life, is the life of the human being. That is very precious, because it cannot come back. Rules can be changed, rules can be amended, but it cannot come back. Human life cannot come back. And here you must accept the responsibility. You must make everything written, documented, so that you can later say that this is what we did and this is the reason. Beneficence, non-malfeasance, informed consent, autonomy, justice, saving the life of the people, rules becoming the end in themselves, constitutional morality. These are some of the important keywords that are there that you need to write when you are justifying the decision. Okay, so that is very, very important. Yes. They are only saying that I mean that you have to see, and then you have to take the decision as per you must explain the risk to the people, because that decision you cannot make. I mean, you cannot just transfuse the blood, and I think husband and wife are there. Husband and wife is there. So, and they are saying, no, we don't want to take that risk. नहीं लेना है भाई, कैसे ले सकते हो डिसीजन? डीएम हो, डिस्ट्रिक्ट मजिस्ट्रेट हो, कुछ भी हो, प्रधानमंत्री क्यों नहीं हो, तुम सामने वाले का डिसीजन कैसे ले लोगे? उसको जीना है कि उसको क्या करना है? हाँ, तो वो आ जाएगा, तो वो आप भाग नहीं रहे हो वहां से. You are not running away from that responsibility. That is what you are writing. जो आ जाएगा तो you will see the consequences. That is what you are writing. And that is how you are addressing that aspect. That, no, I know that there will be consequences for it, but I am willing to stand up for that. That is what you need to write. This is what exactly you need to write. When you do whistleblowing, when you do whatever, all of these things, you need to stand up for what you are doing. Just war theory, all these things, we have discussed all these things. Ultimately you need to take the call. And in this case, I think it is more a professional call in terms of these things. at last, that when screening is also not there. That is a gray area that is there. Some people might be of the opinion that it is like principle of non-malfeasance, that we should not go ahead with this, and the husband and wife may also refuse it because it is a unscreened blood that is there, so it may also cause harm. I mean, then also you may be killing the people just by transferring that blood. So you are not sure of that. So perhaps that might be someone's red line, that no, I will be not transfusing the blood. That is what perhaps you can write here. But ultimately, whatever you do, you should take responsibility for what you are doing. Okay?
Justifying the action, can we say that since right to life is constitutionally backed, it takes precedence over statutory legal?
That legality you leave to the judiciary to decide, or the competent authority to decide, that which will take precedent over what. That is not under your domain to decide that this will take precedent. Even though nothing is taking precedent, humanity is taking precedent. That you cannot allow a person to die in front of you. I mean, if you have option. So that is the biggest law that is there. Biggest law of humanity is that only. Okay, so I mean, very good case study. It was very good case study. Yes?
Can we also mention rule utilitarian?
Why?
Sir,
Which rule you are following?
no, we are breaking the rules.
Can a healthy doctor give their own blood? See, it is not about healthy or unhealthy doctor. You know, the doctor may not know what are the diseases that he may be suffering through. You know, you may simply be carrying lot many risk factors without even knowing it. So it is nothing that anyone can know. हाँ? लिखो, लिख सकते हैं, वो लिखने का मन है. Understood? Okay. And these are arguments that you can write actually, that it is actually allowed here. But screening, I think if I were to write this answer, I will stop at screening. Screening will be my red line. If screening is not possible, I will not be going ahead with the blood transfusion. Okay, because bare minimum, that is what I would do, that screening too I will do. Because otherwise, I am like giving poison only. Okay, it is like that.
But sir, without the transfusion, there is no chance of survival.
But with transfusion also there is no guarantee that you will survive. And also, I mean, because I am also not sure, I am also not sure that the blood is good or not. Only blood group is not necessary to, I mean, for you to verify. There are other aspects of that you need to see. For all that matter, it is just incompatible. You need to see that.
The higher chance of survival due to transfusion. Also as a rule, because if we don't transfer, then we are also accountable for non-performance of it.
No, why? Because that is your medical judgment, that you cannot willingly perhaps, you know, I mean, if you are not very sure of the treatment that you are giving to the patient, then I don't know which doctor will go ahead with the treatment. हाँ, तो वो तो जरूरी है ना. अब स्क्रीनिंग भी नहीं करोगे तो क्या करोगे? That is necessary. तो क्या कर सकते हैं? तो खुद का खून निकाल के चढ़ा देंगे डायरेक्टली, ऐसे पाइप लगा के, कैपिलरी एक्शन. So it will not work like this. Understood? Okay, so this land. So here, land needed for mining, dams and other large-scale projects is acquired mostly from Adivasis, hill dwellers and rural communities. Okay, the displaced persons are paid monetary compensation as per the legal provisions. However, the payment is often tardy and something like that. So ultimately the question is something else, that if you were to frame a policy for a compensation cum rehabilitation, what will be the main element of your policy? See, in this case, there are no easy answer. The previous case that we discussed, it is not a very easy answer. What is most important is that you should be willing to break the law. That is definitely important, and you should be willing to take responsibility. That is there. Okay. After that, regarding this, whether the blood is good enough or not, safe enough or not, at least, even if you have not screened it from the recognized blood bank and something like that, I think that is a gray area. What would you do, Dr. Saab? I mean, the screening also not possible.
I
you will go ahead with the risk.
Because there is a, I can justify it because in Indians 95% of the people will have positive RH factor. So if they have usually negative, usually RH negative. Then
Blood group, I think blood group checking you can do.
that puts a bit of we can do, sir.
Blood group testing you can do. That is there. It is about the screening for other aspect. That is more a professional call, I guess, because that I mean how much threat is there with respect to that and everything. That is more of a professional. But in this case, what is most important is the law versus ethics. Theme is that.
The doctors in the team are ready to facilitate the delivery provided they are not penalized for that. Doctors are convinced that it is compulsory to, otherwise they will lose lives.
But that is I mean she is on the verge of losing life. That is given. So we don't need any other validation for that. It is given in the case study that she is on the verge of losing life, and that is where the dilemma is there. If suppose she is not on the verge of losing life, then what is the dilemma? You wait for some time. What is the theme of the case study? You tell me. What is the theme of the case study? What you are addressing here? I am not asking your answer. What is the theme of the case study? Bus address that. This is what is desired in this case. Okay? Because that has been given in the case study itself that as per law you should do this. So that is a case study. So what is the different elements that are there? You know, how would you approach the problem and what would be the main element of your suggested policy? What would be the main element for your suggested policy? So, बताइए, what have you written? Sir, after transfusion there will be chances of survival. अरे और कैसे बोलूँ मैं अपना ब्लड निकाल के दिखाएंगे आप. It is done. I think we have discussed. The question is not about the decision that you are making. It is not about that. I mean, very few people will not go ahead with the blood transfusion. Almost every one of you will be writing the same thing. So don't think you will get marks for that. I'm telling you that. Don't think that you will get marks for that. In the yesterday's case study, or I think one case study, I don't know we have discussed that or not, regarding whistleblowing. I mean, you tell me how many of the aspirants will be going ahead with the whistleblowing? If suppose, you know, the higher authorities are saying that, you know, they will not be cooperating and something like that, they are not listening to you, and you have noticed some cracks and everything, something like that. And only other alternative is whistleblowing. So how many of you will go ahead with the whistleblowing? I'm asking you. You tell me, you raise your hand. अरे भाई बताओ. हाँ बताइए. How many of you will be going ahead with the whistleblowing? आप नहीं करोगे? अरे पीछे वाले, आप नहीं करोगे? You will not do the whistleblowing. No. अब पढ़ के बताओ इनका आंसर क्या है. डॉक्टर साहब पढ़ो जरा इनका आंसर क्या था. ऐसे ऐसे बोला इन्होंने. यू तिरछा तिरछा चेहरा क्या बोलता है भाई. It is yes or no. You can speak also. You know there is a tongue in your mouth. If you just, you know, use that, I can hear that without any confusion. Ears are working fine? Still he's not. I think he's on one breath today. Okay, so most people will go with the whistleblowing. And you will not get marks for the whistleblowing. That is what I am telling you. Because this is not about whistleblowing. This is about how you are arriving at a decision. The case studies are more about that. Case studies are more about justification because mostly the decision is same. So in this case also, almost all of the people will be going with the blood transfusion only. So don't think that you will get marks for that. Until you identify these principles of informed consent, principle of taking responsibility, ensuring that yes, it is the fit case for applying this extreme judgment, and ultimately taking accountability, responsibility for what you are willing to address yourself, you know, by the rule of law. That is what is desired in this case. On that basis, you will get the marks. If you are not addressing that, you will not get marks, even though you are doing the blood transfusion. Does not matter. Have you understood this part or not? Have you understood this part? You can do this also. Our code word is this. If you are in agreement, say this, not this. Okay, understood? I think we are hair splitting now, this case study. Okay, and all of you can watch Crime Patrol, CID, and all other episodes that are available on YouTube. I think that will make you better officer perhaps. I think my job is done with respect to this. So land needed for mining, dams and other large scale projects is acquired mostly from Adivasi. Okay, we have discussed that. It is about now. So what are the elements that are there in this policies? Okay. So what are the elements that you have written? First, let me just ask you, what are the elements? Read the headings of your answer.
Sir, I talked about the intro of stakeholder. थोड़ा सा एनालिटिकल एक्ट के ऊपर 2-3 पॉइंट लिखा, बस कुछ लाइंस.
तुमको यार समझ में नहीं आता है क्या? तो आप इरिटेट कर रहे हो. आपको क्या क्वेश्चन क्या था मेरा? क्या था? तो ये हेडिंग में इंट्रोडक्शन कहाँ से आ गया? तो आप ऐसे अब इंटरव्यू ऐसे दोगे क्या? सीधा आंसर करें ना जो आपसे पूछा जा रहा है. यही बता दो, मेन एलिमेंट ही पूछ रहा हूँ. हेडिंग्स क्या हैं?
इसमें जो टाइमलाइंस है फॉर द कंपनसेशन फिर उसका थोड़ा सा जीआरएम भी दिखती है.
वेरी गुड.
इसके अलावा जो इंटरनल एक्सटर्नल ऑडिट कमिटीज टू मेक श्योर देयर इज क्वालिटी.
ब्रिलियंट, ब्रिलियंट.
टू ensure that the locals are also part of the donor committee. For example,
Headings. These are heading or provisions? Talk about headings.
participating policy, the participatory policy meeting, and then
Kriti, you read his answer. He's biased because he remember everything. Yes.
Stable compensation, timeline of payment, grievances addressal, ensure that locals are part of approval, create concept of internal and external audit committees, have mandatory public outreach.
Good. This is what you are supposed to read. Okay. But you are so biased. Okay. So see, in this case again, you need to again create those headings. Because policy is not just about compensation and rehabilitation. So when I am asking you what did you write, your answer should not be, sir, employment, compensation, perhaps something like that. Because that will be only one part of your answer. That is what you need to understand. So have any one of you have seen any policy, any government policy document that is there? Okay. देखा है कि नहीं देखा है? देखा भी है कि नहीं भी देखा है भाई साहब? पूरी क्लास पोकर खेलती है, एंटायर क्लास, yes. So basically, if you just talk about policy, you will understand that there are so many things, that you need to see. So many things that you need to see. So it is not just let us talk about whatever you are saying. It is about the rehabilitation aspect. Rehabilitation and the benefits that you want to give, whatever, job, everything. So your answer should not be just about that. Again, from a policy perspective, you must create institutions. There should be institutions to discharge the obligations that are there. In bureaucracy, bureaucracy is often criticized to create posts for themselves. It is often criticized for that. To create posts for themselves, because you see any policy, you see any law, the laws and regulation will always create post. You see National Human Rights Commission and Protection of Human Rights Act, they have created NHRC. In that, so many members are there. Understood? Who are these members? Retired bureaucrat. You talk about RTI, they will create SIC and CIC for that. You talk about National Food Security Act, they will create a State Food Commission. Okay, so the point is they will create institutions to implement something. It is not bad also, because you need institutions to implement provision. I mean, not everything can be implemented by DM or any institution. You need specific institutions to discharge those obligations. So that is what you need to understand, that when you are making this policy, it is not just about these benefits and whatever you are writing. It is also about the institutions that you are creating, the checks and balances mechanisms you are doing, and that. So for that, important part will be what are the institutional architecture you are creating. So you may talk about, let's say, a commissioner for rehabilitation and resettlement. Basically, that will be the nodal officer who will be implementing everything. In office you have created. Probably you can talk about, a national monitoring commission headed by, let's say, environment minister, something like that. I'm just giving you an example. Basically, or retired judge, whatever you want. Basically, that will be having the overall monitoring of the policy. Understood? So, the institutional architecture should be very much clear. Apart from that, yes, grievance redressal mechanism should be very much part of it. How many of you did not have grievance redressal mechanism as part of policy? Did not have. Everyone wrote about grievance redressal mechanism because we discussed about it yesterday. Yes? Okay. Okay, so GRM is very important here. Okay, so I think he is practicing for Dam Sharad. Tonight he might be having that at his house. So grievance redressal mechanism is very much important part of that. And after that, all those mechanisms that you can create. Now let us talk about the principles that you should adopt while you are going ahead for this. The principles that you can adopt. The principles can be that you should minimize the land that is required. Only in the cases when you don't have any other land to go for, then only you should go for this. Okay, and then you should have participation. Yes, subsidiarity is not that. Participation. This is participation that I have written. Okay, so the problem with participation for SIA and EIA, of course. Now, what are the problems in SIA and EIA? You must address those problems here because it is talking about that only. What is your name? See, this is a governance problem. There is no ethical words like that, the way you want to see them. So if you were to write like that only, then you will not be writing the question. Okay, so have a broader perspective when you are writing the case study. So SIA and EIA. So what are the problems that are there in SIA or EIA? Who will tell? Yes. Thoda louder. Screening issues are there. Then? Delay. Then? One of the biggest problem that is there is that people are not really consulted. People are not really consulted. I mean, that public consultation is merely an eyewash. So that is what you need to address here. Mandatory people consultation. And this people is actually project affected people. And there you need to define that in the broadest term possible, because it might be the case that you are living very near and in that area only, but the project proponent will say that you are not exactly impacted by the project, and that is why you should not participate in the public meeting. That is their way of cutting the corner. So you need to have a broader definition of project affected people so that you can include everyone, every stakeholder in that. And when you are going ahead with a public consultation, you must give a very wide publicity for the public consultation, and that need that you must put it in local vernacular newspaper, you must put posters in the local body offices so that people really know that where and when this meeting is happening. And you should put some quorum with respect to at least this much percentage of people are required for us to consider that the public consultation has actually taken place, because that is where the loophole is there. The public consultation does not happen. So awareness and everything is important. And then another loophole is in terms of the area and what you are actually considering, on what parameters you are actually considering the impact. At times you may not be talking about their burial grounds, their grazing grounds, their ancestor sites that are there, perhaps. So basically their traditional places that are there, you may not consider them as part of impact assessment. That also you should consider when you are making. So these are the loopholes that are there, and you must address them when you are writing the main policy. This is how I will be giving a wide publicity. And when you are doing the SIA and EIA, you will have the representation. Appraisal team will always have the representation from the vulnerable section, that is tribals. Their spokesperson, their member must be part of the appraisal team, so that it is not just an eyewash, the impact assessment and everything. Understood? So that is what you must address. That the definition of affected area must be wider. The public consultation, lot of publicity should be there so that more and more people come. Quorum should be there. Local vernacular language, local bodies, their offices. There you can do the advertisement for that. and then a broader consideration of the impact, burial grounds, drinking water sources, cremation ground, everything basically that is actually impacting them. Everything should be considered when you are doing impact assessment. With the team, the appraisal team must have someone, who represent their interest, vehicle section interest, because it should not be a IVAS. So that is important. The impact assessment exercise, it has to be foolproof. That is very, very important. And you can put additional checks and balances. If suppose land is acquired, but no development has taken place for let's say 5 years, then the land will be returned, or something like that. Because that is also equally important. Various corporates, they will take the land and they will not do anything on that land for so many years, and the people have been displayed. And also another checks and balances is that the land, you will not be displacing them until you have put the rehabilitation in place. Okay, so there, because at times you rehabilitate them without even ensuring that the place is properly built or not. So a lot of case studies are there, and Kaka committee is there on tribal affairs. If you read that particular report, you will find that in Sariska Tiger Reserves, the villagers were relocated because of the Sarista National Park, and there were not even drinking water facility that were there. That is also equally important. In rehabilitation, another problem that is there, that all these tribal people, they have their strong sense of solidarity. So you must actually rehabilitate them together. It should not be the one part, you have rehabilitated another place, one part. So as far as possible, together. It is very important so that they can maintain a sense of solidarity. They can maintain a collective sense of that they belong to this, group only. That is equally important. That is what you will be talking about when you are displacing them. Understood? So that is what you can write, and the benefits, employment, vocational training, scholarship, and lot many materials and services are provided to the firms that are operating in that region, and in those things you will always give priority to a displaced person. For example, milk, vegetables, any raw material that is there. If tribals can provide for it, then you must procure them from tribals only, the displaced tribal only, so that you are actually giving them an alternative employment. One-time financial assessment, everything. So these are actually the actual benefit that you are talking about. So in this case study, what is more important is that you are creating checks and balances to ensure the problems are not there that have been discussed in this case study. Like the benefits are not there, they are just unfairly displaced, something like that. Understood? So that is why all the timelines, internal period, all these things you can write, whatever we discussed yesterday. And here we can talk about this, and here we have discussed all of this. So it is more about that. So whenever you are framing a policy, whenever you are framing a law, something like that, again you must think in broader term. You see anything, okay? And perhaps a fund also you can create for all that matter, fund, something like that. So all I'm saying is that is how you must address such problems in a broadest manner possible, so that you are catering to different aspect of the problem. So how many of you wrote along these lines? Anyone? आपने नहीं लिखा? अच्छा, ये की स्टडी छूट गया. आपने लिखा है? What is this? This नहीं this. बताइए. Oh, he can speak. Yes, some points he wrote. What about you, Kirtan? 60%. Okay. So basically, the diversification is more important rather than focusing on benefits only. And your heading should be like that: monitoring, accountability, participation, checks and balances, something like that. So that through headings only one can understand that you are addressing different parts. Because if you write everything just like like this, 1, 2, 3, 4, it's actually a very mundane answer, and examiner need to actually see what you are addressing. It's not a very visible answer. Create the headings. This is what you are doing, this is what you are doing, this is what, and under this you write 2, 2, 3, 3 point, whatever you want to write. Understood? Understood or not? Yes, you can give the example of Kaka committee and all these committee. Yes, definitely. Functional institutional measures, that's brilliant, Navneet, brilliant. Any doubt that is there? Kaka committee is there. It is. Understood? Everyone? Yes? So checks and balances measures are more important in this. So that should be your response. So see, whenever now in today's discussion, another thing that we can learn is that whenever we're talking about policy in theoretical, this is purely theoretical question. The UPSC can ask this question in section A also for that matter. Its answer will be the same because that is how you will be dividing your answer. Understood? I think in disaster response management, we also learned about various aspects of disaster management, what are principles that we should adhere to, and the values that are tested also, and how we should make decision, how should, in the case of drop-down double effect, that also we learned, a specific case study was there. Yes? So that is what you should focus. Any doubt that is there? Any doubt? No doubt is there. Yes? So now we have 3 more classes. Yes? So in the 6th class, in the 7th class and 8th class, we will have 6 questions instead of 4 questions. Okay, so do you want me to give 1.5 hours to write the test, or perhaps 1 hour and then perhaps you can brainstorm on the other 2 case studies? What do you want? 1.5 hours? Okay, so then we will start our class at 6. We can be late, but yes, that is how we will do. Understood? Understood. So in last 2 classes we will have 6 questions instead of 4, so that we have 8 tests that you were promised. Any other thing? Dilemma is something, ethical dilemma, that I will address in one of the case studies in detail so that you can understand how it is written. Aditya's copy I will be discussing in one of the 3 classes definitely for sure I will be doing that. Any other thing that you want me to do, whatever problem you are facing? Any problem that you are facing? Any problem you are facing? No problem.
Sir, in this question, sir, that writing a few lines for unethical act is not explicitly asked, it's indirectly asked. Is that okay?
What you are writing?
Sir, I'm talking about the unethical act aspect.
Unethical act aspect? What?
This unjust distribution of cost and benefit is unethical.
So you are addressing that by this rehabilitation.
No, that's part of the policy, main elements of the policy.
So through main element of policy only you are addressing that.
How critical and unethical act specifically, so that I can reach the point.
You can reach the 4. You can reach the 4 pages by like this only. I mean, it will take a lot of space to write. It has filled the entire board. It will take a lot of space to write.
So it's got the slide.
Slide is not there. Slide is not there. I will try to give you something in next class. Let's see. क्या करना है उसका? फोटो खींचना है. अच्छा खींचो. Any doubt? Any doubt? Anything that because only 3 sessions are remaining. Anything that you want me to address in the remaining 3 sessions? क्लास खत्म हो जाएंगी जी. प्रीलिम्स में तो प्रीलिम्स पढ़ना, मैं क्या करूँगा? So what is it? तो आप बताओ. You only tell me. See, after this you have 2 full-length tests, another 1 month actually for you to revise this question. I think we have discussed this question. You have taken photo of this question. I think this question was like this. And this slide you are talking inside.
Addressing the low-paid migrant laborers in this case study, we can additionally mention labor laws, etc. Or
Regulations
come
to
from apart from policy in this framework.
You can make that. You can make that part of it.
Within the policy only.
Yeah, in terms of the benefits, yes, rehabilitation.
So how would you be conducting full-length test? Like,
You will be coming here, you will be writing the test. That is how it will be conducted. I will not be here. How do you want me to conduct that test?
the answer will be getting 1 whole day to upload it if we do not want to come here and just upload.
That option should be there because there are people who are writing online. How will they upload?
Instead of just giving 3 hours.
Then you can give 1 hour daily.
So 1 whole day so that it can upload.
समझा नहीं मैं.
So instead of just give like a 3-hour time limit to upload, give us 1 whole day.
1 whole day. You will have a lot of time. Flexibility will be there. Don't worry. You will have a lot of time to upload. Okay. Dates कर देंगे सर, आज फाइनल कर देंगे. Give me tonight.
Post 20 only.
Post 20. The wedding is on 13th, 16th. Sir, 30th, 16th.
13th,
13 to 17, your wedding is there, not your brother's wedding is there, and then the UPPCS is also there, and then Dr. Saab is having date on 29th. What can I do for all that matter? Okay, so it will be rather difficult for me to accommodate. There will be flexibility. I mean, if you are not able to write on that particular day, you can write at your home and then perhaps upload also. There will be flexibility in terms of that. Offline, because we need to see the availability of the classroom. That thing will not have flexibility, but home you can always write and upload the answer script. For that, definitely we will have deadline. It is not that you are uploading at the end only, all of you. There is a deadline for that, but you will have flexibility in terms of uploading of an answer script. No, no discussion. It will have model answer. Yes, model answer will be there. What I am asking, what you are asking, totally different thing. I am asking, how can I serve you better in the last 3 classes? Any specific problem that you are facing? Anything that I can perhaps make you understand better through perhaps more number of case studies on that topic? I am asking that. And you are having some trivial... Sir, See, I have thought about it in terms of creating very concrete templates so that I can give you in terms of PDF. I had ideas also. But the problem with that approach is that I don't trust you. Not just you. I mean, in general, I don't trust the intelligence of the students. They will mechanically apply those templates in the questions and then they will get poor marks. Because anyone will be able to see that this is forced application only. And that is the reason I am not giving you any template like pastel, apply pastel. Everyone will be applying pastel only. I want to leave some room for the creativity. That is the only reason I am talking from that perspective. And that is why when I am saying that think like this, that is a template that I am telling you. But if I give it in writing, something like that, it will be problematic. कीवर्ड का लिस्ट फर्स्ट क्लास में दिया था ना, ओरिएंटेशन सेशन में इतने सारे टेस्ट दिए थे, लगा रहे हो उनको? भूल गए? Yes, you can do that, but the question is that whether we can subdivide we can have the subheading for the ethical issues. You should not do it in every question like that. You should be creative with respect to that, but yes, definitely you can do that. Yes. कंक्लूजन में बहुत अच्छा लिख रहे हैं आप. Humanity and everything, you are writing good. So introduction and conclusion is something that you want to address. Okay, then perhaps in one of the case studies, I will discuss in the entirety. Okay, that this is how introduction can be, this is how conclusion can be. Although I have discussed, I don't know why you are having that. Speed versus quality. That is with the time will come. Anything, any specific problem that you are, any potential theme that can be asked, we are discussing potential themes only, Navneet. All the important themes I will be discussing, don't worry. Any other thing? Shreya ji, any specific problem? No problem. Ignorance is bliss, eh? Because you have not revised entire arguments. You only know 8 arguments and you are using those 8 arguments only. You need to revise lot many arguments so that you have lot many arguments to write and use different words. Don't just say utilitarian every time. Sometimes say consequences also. Sometimes say teleology also. Something like that. You should be creative with respect to that. Advice for first timers related to ethics approach. What is the advice? I mean, you follow the lectures, you revise it again and again, and try to implement the learnings. That is the most important advice that is there. Introduction, conclusion, okay, I will try. In next case study, I will give introduction, conclusion for every case study so that you can get a fair amount of idea. But you will not be able to write all the keywords that are coming to your mind in the first case study. But the context will be different. Categorical imperative of first case study will be different than categorical imperative of second case study. Virtue approach of the first case study will be different for the second case study because the character will change. The keywords will change. So that is how you will make the difference. Otherwise, approaches are limited only. Justice approach, right approach, the 3 approach, the deontology, teleology, and virtue approach are same only. but you need to apply them contextually. And that is why I say that don't just use the word virtue approach. Don't just use the word categorical imperative. I mean, relate that to the case study. Otherwise, everyone can write the same argument in all the case study. You need to relate all those arguments with the case study every time you are writing that. Don't just say it is against categorical imperative. Tell specifically how. How to prevent progress vanish in course of preparing for prelims. I mean, see, you should be confident in that. There is still 1 month after the classes. You will be practicing it again. I will again request you to go through all the 14 tests that we have discussed and the discussion also. And you will have a lot of confidence after that, because then you will remember and perhaps integrate everything. Right now you are learning with every test, and that is why you are feeling like, oh, again I missed on this, again and that is why that feeling is there. But after you have revised everything and when you practice that, your answer will look much better. And then you practice other case studies also, other PYQs also. Okay, so don't worry with respect to that. And you should trust that you will learn those skills, and after prelims you simply practice it again. That will be more than sufficient. Kindly do a motivation class. Okay. Toppers case study, I will discuss Aditya Anshar in the one of the 3. I was supposed to do it today, but today I was in hospital all that day, so I could not do it. Next 3 class I will do it. Okay then? Okay, bye-bye. Take care. Good night.